Hello, my name is Joanne Fernandez, and I'm here with Crecer Sin Barreras. And I'm very happy to have with me my brother, my friend, Rob Henlon. Hi, Rob. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
And I really wanted to have you here because you have a very inspiring story, and I want you to share with us what have you been going through in the last several months.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about it. So in March, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Um, and September is actually Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. So um, yeah, that's what I've been going through for the last month.
So I imagine it has been very emotionally challenged in different ways. Like when you received the news, what was going through your mind? What got you to actually check your prostate to see how you were doing?
Well, luckily I'm a veteran,
Mhm.
so I do have a annual checks,
Mm.
and I get checked out every year. Actually,
Okay.
it's annual,
All
right?
right.
My doctor, I guess they noticed that my prostate was elevated, but it's normal um, when you get tested. As you age, it's normal for your numbers to go up. What happened with me was that they took my numbers when I was like 45. They checked it again when I turned 50 last year, and they noticed that it was a real spike.
Now, when you say your numbers were elevated, what kind of numbers were elevated? Just to kind of explain a little bit more.
That's a great question. It's what they do is it's called a PSA test, right?
Okay.
Or the PSA, right? The
Right.
PSA stands for uh, prostate special antigen.
Okay.
No, sorry, prostate specific antigen,
Okay.
right? What happens is when you take a blood test, when you go in for your annual check, they do a blood test. They don't always check the PSA numbers,
Mhm.
but if you request it, they can. Or once you get around 45, that's when they try to get a gauge at what that number is.
So when they checked it for you, they noticed that it was elevated. And then from that step on, what kind of process from there to knowing that you had a cancer, what was the
Right.
process for it?
So initially, because I'm a young 51 or young 50 at that time, they didn't automatically assume that it was cancer. They thought it
Mhm.
was, sometimes, like I said, the that those numbers elevate when you get older. Sometimes it's what they call prostatitis. Sometimes it's just an infection.
Mhm.
So initially, they said it depends on other symptoms. So
Okay.
they go through, they look at that number, and they ask you about your family history
Mm.
and other symptoms that you're having to determine. Now, in rare cases, such as my case, I didn't really have any of the major symptoms,
Mm.
and I wasn't aware of any family history. So they didn't immediately jump to cancer.
And at what point did they say, okay, this is cancer, we need to move? And
Mm.
how is that for you to do that process of trying to find out if you had it, didn't have it? What
Right.
does it mean that the numbers are elevated?
So we looked at the numbers. The next step was, they did an MRI
Hmm.
to actually look at the prostate, um, to see if they could tell with all clarity. Mine came out um, fuzzy because I fell asleep and I moved during the
Mm.
MRI,
Mm.
so they couldn't tell right away. And so then they had to go through a biopsy.
Mm.
So the biopsy is when that's the real actual way to tell when they
Right.
actually take pieces of the tissue.
So in a way, there was somebody watching over you to say, you know what, you need a biopsy now
Yeah.
instead of waiting and all of
Yes.
that. Okay.
Definitely. Definitely.
So at that moment when they went over the biopsy with you,
Mm.
what was going through your mind?
Yeah. I was like, man, does this mean that I'm gonna die? I didn't know what's gonna happen. I started thinking like, trying to figure out why me because I wasn't aware of anybody in my family having it. So I was like,
Mm.
what's so different about me? You know
Right,
what I mean?
right. Did it go through your head that maybe cancer could have been something that could be derived from the military? Was
Yeah.
it eating habits?
All,
Was
all of
it?
the above, all of the above, because some of the places that I've been stationed, and every veteran really, they inject you with different things from the time that you're in boot camp to different deployments. You get injected with all kinds of stuff.
Not to mention in the actual wars or
Right,
the
exactly. Yeah.
the things that you're exposed to, I should say.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Burn pit, all of that stuff um, can play a factor. So all of that started racing through my head, and I'm thinking, okay, man, I could have changed my diet. I've been saying I'm going to change my diet for the last 10 years, and
Hmm.
I made gradual improvements, but I never made that complete
Hmm.
change. So
So when the doctor tells you you have cancer, these are your options.
mm,
What kind of decisions did you have to make and make them? I'm assuming quickly. What stage were
yeah,
you in, like in the cancer? Were you stage one? Was it detected early?
with prostate cancer, it's a little bit different, but it would be what they consider to be stage two,
Mm-hmm.
which means the cancer was covering the entire prostate, but
Mm.
it hasn't metastasized, so it did not go out into any of the other
Okay.
organs yet. So once it does that, they consider it like a stage three. Um, and so as far as treatment, that really depends on a few factors. So I'm not a doctor to say okay,
Right.
it's not cookie cutter, but the general rule of thumb is they look at first your age to
Mm-hmm.
determine what's the best route for you.
Right.
Usually, if you're younger in the I would say early 60s to yeah, early 60s and
Mm.
under, they would recommend a prostatectomy, which
Okay.
means removal of the prostate.
Okay. And which route did you go? Did you go through the chemo? Did you go through the removal? Like, what led you to make the decision that
Right,
is best for you and your family? Because it's not just a you thing;
right,
it's a family thing when it
yes,
comes to cancer or any health issues.
definitely. So I went to several doctors. I went to three different doctors. I went, within the VA system. Then I went to two different doctors outside of the system, and a radiologist, and they all recommended, based off of my age, the best course of action was to have the prostate removed. The reason being is once you go through radiation, um, well, I'll back up and say there's always a risk of the cancer returning.
Okay.
So if you remove the prostate and it does return, it's easier to see because once they remove the prostate, your PSA number should be zero,
Okay.
right? There's nothing in you anymore because they removed it. If that ever goes up, they can catch it faster and then knock that out with radiation.
Right.
On the if the other route, if you do radiation, and sometimes it takes up to 10 years to see if that's been successful. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so if the cancer returns, all of that is kind of gummed up from the radiation, so there's really nothing that you can do.
Right.
So usually with older gentlemen, they
Mm.
just said, okay, let's do the radiation. We don't have to go through what they call the radical
Right.
prostatectomy,
Right.
because your body it goes through a lot.
Mm.
So they say, okay, yeah, it's gonna take you about 10 years. You'll still have a good quality of life.
So you basically, it sounds like the safest way because no matter which way you go, at least you know that if it does come back, you'll be able to detect it a little bit easier.
That's the safest way for me,
Hmm.
and my family. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I decided that, um, yeah, it wasn't my choice, like you said.
Right, right. Because
Alone. Right.
it's a
Yeah.
whole family event. It's not
Right.
just you. So once you went through all that I imagine was very hard because
Mm.
you're going under, you're going through a surgery, you have to go through recovery. How do you feel about life in general now that you have overcome something, you have battled with cancer?
Mm.
Like how has it changed you emotionally, mentally, as a person? Because I
Yeah.
know that every time you go through something very, very difficult,
Mhm.
it changes you inside. And if it changes you inside, we know that
Right.
you're a different person. So how has it changed you?
Yeah. I'm still going through the changes because I'm still recovering. Right.
Okay.
But I will say it has brought a lot of perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lucky for me, I was able to go through the Mayo Clinic system, which they're like world renowned
Right.
with cancer treatment. I spoke with my doctor. I had a birthday and a family reunion coming up, and he's like, you know what, we're gonna wait till after you do your birthday, and after which my birthday was during our family reunion, and then my surgery was like 4 days after. So um,
It sounds like you
yeah,
had like a mini celebration of life,
that's
and give you like a positive way to go into surgery to know that you had so many people. How
exactly.
many people were in your family reunion? I know I
I,
saw pictures,
yeah, at
so.
that reunion it was like 80 something people.
Oh,
So we went
beautiful,
to Jamaica,
beautiful,
a resort in Jamaica, and yeah, so it was. I was surrounded by a lot of love, a lot of
beautiful. Yeah.
family, and a lot of support. A big shout out to my wife that definitely made me feel
Definitely.
comfortable and everything.
It's beautiful because when you have that core support,
Hmm.
you can feel that you can overcome anything, and to know that you had over 80 family members, you had your wife, you have your kids, that they're supporting you through the process.
Right,
That's the most important thing that you can have in your life. Now,
definitely.
if you can advise any of our listeners, especially we have a lot of young men, we have mid-age, we have all kinds of different ages, that they just don't go to the doctor, and if they go to the doctor they don't ask the right question. And since this is something that can be preventative, in the sense that if you can capture it earlier is better for you, what would you recommend to anybody who's listening?
Um, well, definitely, especially if you have any history of cancer in your family, whether regardless of what type of cancer,
Okay.
um, definitely get your PSA checked. Go to the doctor, ask them. Around the time, I would say as early as 40. They say wait till you're 50. I would say as early as 40. You know
Right.
what I mean? Um, I found out after my surgery, the day of my surgery, that my grandfather had prostate cancer
Oh, okay.
and dealt with it.
And
So
it's
I didn't
amazing.
know that
Yeah.
until I was
Un-
recovering. I was
until
coming out of surgery,
afterwards.
and what happened was my family is making phone calls and letting everybody know what happened, and somebody said, "Hey, this is what his grandfather went through the same thing." And
And a lot of the things of back way back in the day,
mhm,
they didn't communicate when it became to cancer, when it came to
right,
certain illnesses. It didn't trickle down to the next generation to say so and so had this, because people didn't really speak about it the way we speak about it, and we're open about things now.
definitely. I mean, a lot of men right now aren't open about it, and what I'm doing, part of the reason why I'm so open is because I want to encourage people to get checked. But it is sensitive. You know what I mean? With
Right.
some of the symptoms, you got frequent urination, you got painful urination,
Mm.
painful ejaculation, different stuff like that that most people aren't comfortable talking about anyways. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So
Right.
it's personal. So
Especially when you're around in your 40s, where you're supposed to be in your prime, you're supposed
right.
to be in your best self. So it's harder for especially males,
Hmm.
that to go to a doctor or to communicate it with a friend,
Right.
because you're not going to be talking about that. But I am so grateful that you're able to express yourself and make people aware that there's certain things that we can do to prevent cancer, to prevent different illnesses, but specifically the prostate cancer.
Right.
So making people aware is beautiful. So thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Thank you
Uh,
for having me and giving me the opportunity to spread the word.
so guys, just make sure that you subscribe if you like our message, and have a great day.